I am very excited today. There are a lot of new faces here at JEA, a lot of people that are in different positions, and I'm so glad to have here today the VP and GM of both water and energy. And their schedules are very hectic, so it's fortunate that we have them. And our VP GM of energy just started with us on January 2nd, Karen Anders. And Daryl Calhoun, who is my boss, is the VP GM of water. And Daryl's going to come up and say a few words, followed by Karen. Darren?
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, Karen and I were up here at 8 o'clock, and we're like, uh-oh, this isn't going so well. But so it looks a lot better now. So I just want to take a few minutes to introduce myself. Daryl Calhoun, VP GM Water and Wastewater Systems. About the last week in January is when I came into this role, so I've got a heck of a lot more experience than Karen does here. But we've done some things, I think, you'll see today to ease the burden. Generators on Class 1 pump stations being my favorite. So understand that what we are doing is balancing the long-term R&R and costs to JEA with obviously your costs and expenses in building things up front. So I'm excited for you guys for the day to hear what we've got for you. I appreciate what you do. We added, I think it was 32 pump stations last year. So I don't know whether to curse you or thank you, but Jacksonville is growing, our service territory is growing, and it's important that we have these type of sessions where we can get together and communicate. Please feel free, if you have problems or input that you think you should get to us, to contact Raynetta or myself and express those concerns. Don't let things build up. We want to have an open dialogue with you guys and do good work. So again, thank you for showing up. Have a great day and ask plenty of questions, and I appreciate you attending for sure. Karen, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am on week 2, but I do have 35 years of industry experience both with Exelon and Duke Energy. So I certainly understand how important the relationship is that we have together. And I also look forward to meeting your expectations and want to echo that if there are concerns, please let's talk about them and work it out. So I'm still drinking from the proverbial fire hydrant, but I'm yeah, it's very good water. But I am really pleased to be here, and I thank you all for what you're doing. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. So.
Thank you. Yes. Follow the evacuation routes. Thank you. Okay, like Daryl said, there is a lot that's going on, a lot of development. And this just gives just a very brief overview as far as the activity and as far as the growth that we have seen. If you look at fiscal year 2015 and then fast forward to this year, it's almost quadrupled in some areas, tripled in some, quadrupled in others as far as infrastructure. So there's a lot of activities, and it's important that we keep this communication open. And this is just on the water side of the business, and there's a similar story on the electric side as well. So I'm just trying to put this into context. So we're now going to go ahead and get started with the agenda. And here is the agenda, and it follows a logical process. Basically, we're going to go from application to review to design, everything prior to construction. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to go into construction, then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go into more construction. And finally, at the end of this, we're going to give you information as far as what's new as far as our guidelines, what's new as far as permitting, what's new as far as innovation and technology that we're going to be utilizing. And we want to make sure that this is interactive. So we want to make sure that we have time for questions and answers throughout this session. So there is the agenda. We're going to stick to it. And the first person who has worked very, very hard on this that I'm going to introduce is my development manager, Deanna Davis, and she's going to do section 1 or start that. Welcome.
So to get started, availability letters, as you all probably know, anytime you need to start a project with JEA, we need you to apply for an availability letter. You can go to jea.com to do this. There's a quick link there. Availability letters are valid for 1 year. If your project has been approved, you're good, don't worry about it. If your plans have not been approved or have not even been submitted yet and your letter has expired, you need an update. You don't need to request a new availability letter. You can just email us at at jea.com. That's updates to existing letters. They've expired, my address has changed, my flow has changed, my units have changed. If you have to provide us any supporting documentation for your availability requests, that would be layouts, master plans, or if you just have any general questions, you can email this mailbox, we'll get that. The availability letter provides you a point of connection for water, sewer, reclaimed, and then it will also tell you if you're in the JEA service territory. There is not a separate electric availability letter. Typical turnaround for these is 10 business days. As you saw from the previous slide, we are inundated with requests. You guys are working in this field, you know it. So we've had to expand the amount of turnaround time we have for these because we're averaging probably about 15 of these a day. Pre-design and pre-application meetings. You need to email new requests to wsedevroj requests@jea.com. There are many people within the development team that get this email. So as opposed to you emailing one of my teammates directly, I'd prefer you email this. That way we don't lose your request in the shuffle. In that request, please include your availability number, any plans, any specific questions, and the availability dates and times for your meetings. The special and specific questions are really important. I know a lot of you want to ask for, certain circumstances, or I'd like to see if I can do this instead of that. If you ask us ahead of time, we can research that. You'll get your answer a lot faster that way at your meeting. Also, if necessary, please in that email request to have either real estate or the electric group or anybody else from JEA that you would like to have there. Normal procedure is the development team, but we're happy to share and bring anybody else from JEA in on with us. Plan review requirements and submittal statuses. Please see Design Guidelines Section 2.4 that goes through all of the requirements. It gives you the general plan requirements as well as specific requirements based upon the infrastructure that you're submitting on. Review times. Preliminary plan review is 15 business days. Subsequent plan review is 10 business days. I know a lot of people call and ask, what's the status of my plan review? On JEA.com, Water, Wastewater Development and the Self-Service Center, and I'll show you a clip of what that looks like later in the presentation, you can actually go in there. You need your availability number, pop in your availability number, and you can see what the latest log of your project is. Project submittal and common corrections. I know a lot of times people submit plans and they're like, I submitted them, why haven't they been reviewed, or it's been longer. If you don't include everything that is necessary in there, it drags, or we have to go back to you and ask for it before we can continue to process. So please take a look at those checklists, but here's some high notes of items that are routinely missed. On your agent authorization form, it's not an original signature. We cannot accept a copy. It's got to be the original. The entity listed as the company office is not the one that's on the SunBiz report that you provide us. Those have to match. The engineer doesn't actually fill out their section, so it's, yes, my client has given me permission, but who is me? We don't know. Also, your property appraiser maps. It needs to include the property owner information. A lot of times we receive maps with no property owner information, and then we've got to go find that. PDFs are not included in the submittal. As you guys probably all know at this point, because we've been doing it for over a year, we have hard copy submittal and electronic plan review submittal. It actually facilitates getting comments back to you much faster when you provide us PDF copies. So this is a requirement. Also, JEA development team is not the only person that reviews the plans. There are other entities within JEA that does. Having the PDF helps us get it to them faster and get their comments back faster to be able to give it to you. So please do make sure that you include a PDF. You can do that either with the CD of your hard copies that you submit to us via the mailroom, or you can email it to that water sewer development project request email, or water sewer development project request email. FDOT permits. Please do not submit the permit until you have approved JEA plans. The permits all come to me, and I'm always going to check to see if the plans that you've included are the ones that we approved. If I don't have approved plans, I'm not approving the application. So Just as an FYI to you on that. If you could, please, either in the job name or in the file name of the attached documents that you're including, put that availability number. As you can see through this presentation and really through our interactions, we deal with that availability number. So that's the fastest way for me to be able to go look up your project. Please include, there's a section on there that you're selecting the utility agency / owner name. Please select JEA Deanna Davis. That's going to come to me. If you don't select that, it might get lost. Please also include a signed copy of the special instructions document. I have put this on the forms and procedures page. Again, we'll go through that later on in the presentation, but that's a quick link to find it. You just need to fill it out, sign it, and send it over to me. I'll sign it, and then we're all good. If you have any comments from the FDOT that modify your plans, you need to make sure that you send them back over to us. Because again, when you send them to the DOT, I go in and verify that the plans you're sending to them are the ones that we have approved. If they don't match, it delays your permit. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bill Pound, who is with the JEA self-permitting team, to go over water and wastewater permits.
Thank you, Deanna. Talk to you a little bit. I'm Bill Pound, JEA self-permitting, water and sewer self-permitting. We do the JEA permits, which are only in Duval County. And the pipe diameter is 12 inches or smaller. If it's larger than that, it has to go to a DEP permit. With wastewater, it cannot have any on-site sewer. If there's any on-site sewer, it has to be a DEP permit, which will cover the on-site and off-site sewer. The permits are good for 2 years with the option of 3 one-year extensions. But to get the extension, you have to request in writing before it expires. If it expires, it's gone. You have to start over a brand new permit. So you can get a total of 5 years if you request an extension before it expires. Then there's no fee with the JEA permits as opposed to DEP permits. Now, the other counties, Duval County, you can always get a DEP permit. A lot of people do because it's 5 years up front. St. John's, Nassau, Clay County require DEP permits for water and sewer. Like I said, any on-site sewer requires a DEP permit regardless what county. The permits are 5 years and there is a fee. And I'll turn it over to Jeremy and talk to you a little bit about the electric.
I'm Brandon Traub from Real Estate Services. Once you have approved plans from water, wastewater, and electric, you should know what your real estate needs are going to be, whether or not you need an easement for a meter or mains or electric service, or whether or not you're submitting a plat for a new development. Plats, we're going to change something I think most of the developers are going to be happy with. We're no longer going to require hard copies of the plats at plat review. We do still need a hard copy of the Phase 1 environmental assessment if there is a lift station being dedicated to JEA. So you can email PDFs of the plat, the title search. Always include the availability number provided by Deanna's department so that I can process the plat and documents for review. It helps expedite things. Hard copy PDF, availability number, title search on the plat. That's what we need. If there's a lift station, we need a Phase 1 environmental. I do need a hard copy of the Phase 1 environmental, not of the plat. Easements. If you have a main or a meter that is on private property, JEA is going to need an easement for that. For easements, I need the original, fully executed easement with the legal description and depiction of the easement area for review. I also need a title search. We prefer that the title search be specific to the easement. If it's not, if it's on a parent tract, my attorney could kick it back. It helps if it's specific to the easement. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to the easement every time, but it helps. We need a title search and the availability number to route those for review as well. Use and hold harmless agreements. If you're going to be using an existing JEA easement, or if you need JEA fee-owned property for anything, whether or not it's ingress, egress to your project, or you're gonna put pavers or something. JEA is only required to restore things back to county standard. If there's anything that's gonna be above county standard, we're gonna need to go through the JEA use of real property, hold harmless application process, and we're gonna need to enter into an agreement with the property owner and JEA. The reason is, we can't always replace pavers after they've been in for a couple years. You can't find the same stuff, so people could be upset. You know, there's walls or retention walls or parking on JEA property. We're gonna need to enter into an agreement to have that. And if there's any other questions regarding real estate, go to jea.com, real estate services. My contact information is there. If you need forms for easements or deeds or the standard plat dedication language, just email me. We'll get it to you as soon as possible. It doesn't take very long. And just, you know, whatever questions you have to help expedite your real estate needs, let me know, and we'll take care of it. Thank you.
All right, so that's going to conclude our section 1, water, wastewater, and electric pre-construction. We'll take questions now at this time for just the stuff that we have covered. We're going to take questions at the end of each section so that we cover just those ones. So does anyone have any questions on anything that was covered or maybe something that wasn't?
The question was, is there a way of providing a CAD file that shows all the features that we need up front as opposed to the back and forth that we often have to go through? Well, this feature's missing, that feature's missing, or what needs to be done up front so that we can make sure that the first file that we receive has everything that we need in it. And we are working to provide that on our website. There's 2 links there today that are somewhat outdated. There's a DGN and a DWG that's there, but it doesn't have all the newer layers, and it doesn't have all of the color tables, if you will, that are associated with those 2. So we do recognize that, and we'll make that change to help. Absolutely.
So the question was, if you have a phase 1 on your full development, why does JEA require a phase 1 environmental done specific to the lift station tract? The answer that I have received numerous times from environmental is because the phase 1s, when they cover a full development, will talk about things that are X amount of miles away or areas that are adjacent to or next to a development that are possible but probably not areas of concern environmentally. And when we minimize it to the lift station tract, it takes that concern away. So if you have this whole podium as your development, but just this little area is a lift station, if we shrink that phase 1 environmental assessment down to just the lift station, my environmental team doesn't have to review as much. They don't have to weed out and be concerned. What would happen is a lot of times they'd be asking for phase 2s and they'd have a lot of questions if they're looking at the environmental for your full development because of the adjacent properties that may have issues. And it makes it easier down the road if there was a problem and something wasn't shown on the phase 1, but we, you know, had a issue and there was an environmental concern. Having a phase 1 specific to the lift station tract would alleviate any concern of prior environmental contamination. That's what I've been told from environmental services. Right. Well, the procedure is that we get it specific to the lift station tract because anytime JEA buys property, we need a phase 1 specific to what I'm buying. I can't, if I'm buying a 50 by 50, I can't accept a phase 1 for a 3-acre parcel. So anytime JEA is going to own a property and fee, we're going to need a phase 1 environmental specific to that property. I mean, it's just same as if you as a developer were going to go buy a property, but it was subdivided. You're probably not going to want a phase 1 on a piece of property that's much bigger than what you're purchasing. Hope that answers your question.
Brandon, is there a timing on the phase 1? Does it expire? Is it the year of the
That's a good question. I get that a lot. We've accepted them up to a year old. They prefer them to be no greater than 6 months old, but I know that they will accept them up to a year old. If it's 13, 14 months old, feel free to send it to me. I'll ask them and we'll see what we can do. We're not trying to, be difficult on the phase ones, but it is a requirement. Environmental issues are always a concern. Go ahead, sir. The question was, is that from when the project is started or when I receive the phase one? We prefer it to be from when I receive it.
And his question was, if he starts a project with the plan reviewer, does he need to just continue to direct everything to that plan reviewer instead of the general mailbox? The answer is it depends. When you originally came in with your project, did you identify that here's one project and I'm going to have 5 phases? Then you will continue to submit. You do have to submit to the main review box. As a FYI for everybody, I know about a year ago we had this person does this, that person does that. In development, we've changed it up to where our goal is that the person that you have plan reviewer wise in your pre-design meeting is the person that you have throughout the duration of your project. However, we do want you to direct your emails to the main mailbox, not directly to that person. Feel free to copy that person, but should that person be on vacation for 3 or 4 weeks, your project would be sitting in limbo and we wouldn't know about it. So that's the importance of that general email. If you do have a contact and you are working directly with a particular plan reviewer, feel free to copy them on it, put them in the to file, whatever. But we all have access to that other email box. So that is just one extra layer of insurance that your project doesn't fall through the cracks.
Good morning. My name is Josh Parker. I'm over the construction inspectors. So next thing you're going to do, you're going to want to set up a pre-construction meeting. There's your link to set up the meeting. Attention, pre-construction meeting. Make sure you include the project name and availability number. Pre-con meeting request form. And then you must have the meeting prior to any construction. That's very important. At the meeting, you'll be assigned the inspector, transfer information. There you'll get the project acceptance checklist. And also important, any revision is required for all changes to the approved plans. Review time's 5 business days, and we'll review electronically for the project construction. And a few activities to make sure you schedule with the inspector. Any wet tap on our pipes, we want to be there. Cutting in tees, sleeves, or valves, and tie-ins into manholes. Cores or stubs, force main into manholes, and also any flushes, outages, back T testing. We're requesting 7-day advance notice for that. Environmental's taking our testing now. We want to be there for pressure test. CCTV tapes, we probably won't be able to attend that, but we'll review them, locate wire, pump station startups, and of course any wet well installations. We want to be on site to make sure we get that inspection done.
All right, our as-built review process. Again, you all know this, but I'm just going to reiterate it. The water, wastewater, and reclaimed water development team is your point of contact. So even though you've got the ability to go look up the status of your project, you may see somebody besides your reviewer has logged something. You don't need to call them directly and ask them questions. If you have any questions pertaining to the status of your review, please contact the development reviewer that has been assigned to your project. We must follow Section 501 of the JEA standards. That is on our website. Please make sure that you check it out. We've also put together the transmittal and checklist form and made it available on the JEA water, wastewater forms and procedures page for your use. You must include that transmittal and the checklist. So that's your quick way to find it. I know a lot of people had to search a lot for it, so we've made that easier for you. You must also include a hard and electric copies, both AutoCAD and PDF, that is outlined on that transmittal checklist. The as-bills are submitted to us, again, via the mailroom. And then the review times for the preliminary submittal, 10 business days for preliminary, 5 business days for any additional reviews that are needed for your as-built approval. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for your project, because I know we get inundated with calls. I need my meter, I need my meter. You haven't gotten your as-bills done yet. It's really hard to get to your meter at that point. So please follow the process, follow the format, and it'll go a lot faster. And Bill will come talk to us about our COCs, which is the next step you need before you can get your meter.
The COCs, certificates of completion, with the JEA COC permits, you need a JEA COC application form. Some people try to use a DEP or vice versa. Whatever permit you have, that's the COC form you have to submit. It needs to have original signatures and seals on the COC form. Submitted along with the supporting documentation, the back T test, 2 consecutive days, not exceeding 60 days old. We consider Fridays and Mondays as consecutive days, pressure test, and the as-built approval letter from development. So submit it all in a package together. Don't piecemeal it because it'll just be placed aside. We try to process them in 3 business days, but it depends on the backload. It's first come, first served. They take they're stamped in and they're done as they come in. DEP COCs, they have their own application that needs original signatures and seals along with supporting documentation, back T test, 2 consecutive days, not older than 60 days, pressure test, and the as-built approval letter from the development. And I'll turn it back over to Deanna.
So you've got your as-built approved, you've got your letter, you've got your permit cleared. Now you're at the time where you want to complete your project. The inspections team will participate in the lift station startup. They'll conduct a final walkthrough of your project. They'll generate a punch list, and once you have addressed any punch list items that they have outstanding, they will let our team, the development team, know that your project can be accepted. Now, for project acceptance, please do not submit the acceptance package until you have all of the documents. Like Bill just said, the piecemeal. We've got so many projects, things get lost. Please keep them all together and submit them to us at once when you are ready for acceptance to be processed. At acceptance, JEA will issue a letter indicating the date of acceptance. That is the start of your 2-year warranty. Your new services can now be started, and you must now turn in any fire hydrant meters that you have checked out for your project. Now we'll have Gigi Carroll, who's the manager over the water pre-service counter, talk to you about new services.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gigi Carroll. I am the manager of business client relationships. I've got 2 teams that I'm responsible for. One is water pre-service. The other is our key account team, which has helped with all the logistics behind this event. I would like to ask Dan Copeland, who is one of my team members, to stand up and wave a hard hat at everybody. Okay. Dan is who you look for in the event of emergency and we need to evacuate all of our guests. So please look for Dan standing in that church parking lot on Ashley Street. Moving back into water pre-service, the 4 items there that you all work with us is with our fire flow test, hydrant meters, sewer service locates, and those new water wastewater service locations. I would just like to, Deanna just mentioned returning hydrant meters. I would just like to address that and remind everyone that with those hydrant meters, you paid a permit, a $25 permit fee and a $1,500 deposit. Those hydrant meters are for construction purposes only when no potable water service is available. They may not be directly connected as a potable water source to any other structure than a construction trailer. That's temporary. Meter readings, you guys know, you send them to us monthly. You email them to us at firehydrant@jea.com. And then just a reminder, every 6 months, for those of you with long projects, those get exchanged for repairs, recalibration, and we issue you a new hydrant meter. Our water applications, I would like to just show you that the top one is for a flow test. Those are $82. Where you can see on the panel on the left, that is underneath our engineering and construction, water and wastewater. And the applications, the capacity fee calculators, and for fixture count for our hotels and multifamily, those are the areas that my team at the water pre-service counter directly work with you. The second application example underneath there is for our sewer locate requests. Sewer locate request, if we do not find the sewer service, then that $491 fee is applied to your application. The new, for your new service applications, they are all on jea.com. Please completely fill out the application, and I'll show you one in the next slide and what I mean by that. Please utilize the capacity fee calculator that's also on our website. Capacity fees are calculated and charged based on our tariff, and I will show you that as well. Fees do need to be paid at the time of application. So everything must be paid in full at the time that you are applying for your water or sewer services. Application process times. For a single application, our process time is typically around 3 business days. For our bulk builder applications, that's when we receive 10 or more on a single bulk builder application. Those are usually turned around in about 5 business days. But there are some of you, and you know who you are in this room, that have been sending us bulk builder applications with 60 and 80 homes at a time. Those you guys all know how much development is going on. You all know how busy you are. All of that, as everyone before me has said, then comes to my team. So that, depending on volume, that could eke past that 5 business day turnaround on the bulk builder ones. And for us to also help you, especially for our new subdivisions, if there are some homes like model homes or ones that have already been sold that you know that are going to be closing on before others, send those in separately with payment for all of those. Because when you send everything in all at once, everything needs to be processed all at once because the money needs to match the applications. We can't process piecemeal. So as you send it to us, that's how it's processed. So if you do have priority addresses, put those on a separate bulk builder application so that those get completed first, and then put the rest of them on a second application. Here's an example of one of our applications. You'll notice the red boxes. That has a grayed out word that says calculated. That's where the capacity fees are filled in. At the bottom, the yellow arrows, they are pointing to a sentence that says, asterisk, required field. Please complete all information. As everyone has said before me, if it's not complete, we are going to send it back to you. That then puts you at the end of the line, and you will need to resubmit that application. To save us time, to save you time, everything with a red asterisk on that application must be filled out. And I'll just call out a couple of important ones. That availability number, absolutely have to have it. And also the location of your meter. Please make sure you mark that down too. We'll get into that in the next section, but please clearly state, clearly mark where you want your water meters, where you want your sewer service to be installed. The capacity fee calculator on our website looks like this. There are shortcuts to get to it. That is in the resource sheet that's inside your white folders. Please note that, and for your reference, we put what the fees are that are in the tariff in the box below. But the way capacity fees are charged, it's gallons per day times for water, 93 cents per kgal, per gallon, or the fee in the box for the corresponding meter size, whichever is greater. So you'll know up front what your capacity fees are. Those gallons per day are on your availability letter. They're housed in our project tracking. My team at pre-service checks that to make sure that everything is filled out correctly and is in alignment with everything that development has already approved. And now let's talk about those meter installations.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? My name is Jerry McInerney. I'm foreman over Water Meter Field Services. I have with me Mr. Godsey. He's a foreman as well. We're just going to take a couple minutes to go over some of the most common roadblocks that are encountered when our builders are requesting to have their meters installed. Maybe give you a little bit of a heads up so we can get those meters in the ground as soon as possible. This is, I'll kind of start with the smaller meters. Mr. Goss, he handles the larger meters, a little more complex, and he'll mention some of those roadblocks. So before those meters, or before you request those meters, some basic tips. We need to know where it's at, make sure the lot's marked, so our guys are at the right place so we can get that meter put in the ground. Also ensure the meter box is at grade, not broken, covered, or buried. These are high priority field activities. These work orders are completed within a day, okay? So if you've requested a meter and it's not been installed within a couple days, there's a high likelihood something may be going on with that. So just a quick check. Make sure your boxes are at grade, the services aren't pulled out of the ground, there's nothing crushed or damaged. Those things are going to ensure that we get those meters installed as soon as possible. Also, the service location in the box. If the service is pulled out of the ground and the box is reset, please make sure that the valve is at the very back of the box, so there's obviously room to put the meter in the box, okay? Let's see, go into this. Now, for areas that have reclaimed water, there's the process is a little bit different. We will not install reclaimed meter unless that potable is there. So if you know you're going to have your reclaim, you should request the potable meter first, okay? We're going to come out. If everything looks good, we're going to drop the potable meter. You can use that meter for construction purposes. When that meter is tied into the house, the backflow preventer is installed, at that time you can request a reclaim meter. The technicians are going to check. They're going to check that when they come out to set that reclaim meter. They're going to make sure that the service is tied into the house, the backflow is installed, and it's tested and tagged. And if everything's okay on that side, they'll go ahead and install the reclaim meter. We would ask that you use purple piping on the irrigation system. You can tie onto that reclaim meter in that time. About 7 to 10 days later, there will be an inspection. The technicians will do hydraulic testing and conductivity testing just to verify that there's no cross connections. And at that point, everything should be sound. So I'm going to back up here and let Mr. Godsey talk about some of the challenges that are faced on the commercial side. It's a little bit different. You want?
Good morning. My name's Jody Godsey. The 1.5 and 2 meters follow the same guidelines as the 1 and below meters. The 3 and larger meters is typically where we run into different instances, easement issues, encroachments on the easement that doesn't give us room to put those meters in. The process for the larger meters takes a little bit longer. Jerry's tickets are typically a 1-day ticket. Mine are about a 10-day ticket. We try to get to those meter installations as soon as possible when we get those. The best advice I could give is communicate with your inspector, and then your inspector can communicate through the meter shop. Anything ahead of time that you feel may be an issue, let's talk about it. We really encourage that because it makes the process flow much better in the end result. We know you need that water when you call for the meter. Our goal is to get that in as soon as possible. We look for the service depth, again, the easement, having the room between the control valve and the backflow. What you see as far as the box that's above ground, that's not the whole meter assembly. There's a lot of piping underground that is included in that assembly. So those are just some of the challenges we run across. I'm sure we'll get into the question and answer scenario next with Deanna. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Again, we encourage any communication ahead of time that you can because we know the meter is one of the last things that goes in, and we want to get that in as soon as possible. And with that, we will turn it over to Deanna.
Alrighty, so at this time, we'll take questions for any of the speakers that spoke in this section.
Question is, if you're requesting a reuse meter, a reclaim meter, this would be a commercial area where there's no separate building. That's a very good question. Those instances, I should have provided a little more detail. We will set that reclaim meter without a potable meter, obviously. If For example, common areas where you would have just irrigation, yeah. So we would set a reclaim irrigation meter in that instance when there's no potable meter to tie into a building. So, good question. Does that answer it?
But there's a service address.
Let's tag team that. So first you need the availability letter. You can provide your RE number, so we'll be able to figure that out. And then there will have to be a service address that will come in for that.
Every single one of our meters has its own address. For us to be able to log it in our GIS system, for us to be able to track it and know what meter specifically we're talking about. So there is an address, and that address would, if I'm sure there's a permit, or it would come across, or it gets put into our master premise list, but an address does exist. And if you're not sure of what that is, you could always call Water Pre-Service 665-5260, and they would be, or email them, and waterpreservice@jea.com, and they would be able to answer that for you. And while I have the mic, I would like to do a public service announcement. 811 dig. Please, 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 could you please? I know you guys know to use 811 dig. Call before you dig. You would think everybody would know that, particularly contractors, that not only would they call for locates, but they would actually use those locates and do their very best not to hit our stuff. If you all only knew how many times our water mains, sewer mains, how many times they are hit, those are crews that are now taken away, construction crews that would normally be putting in things like main extensions and sewer lines and other work services that you need them to do. Emergency work gets priority. If it would help us to help you, to please encourage your own people and the contractors that you work with to please call 811 and please get those locates and please honor those locates. When it's, please pothole, please look for our pipes. I'm pleading on behalf of our Vice President of Water, Wastewater. He would very much love for y'all and contractors to stop blowing up our water system.
Thank you, Gigi. You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other public service announcements we need to make? His question was, we cannot schedule a final walkthrough with the inspector until the development team has the final acceptance package, and that would be correct. And I'm sorry, I forgot to reiterate, the previous question was, when doing as-built, one of the requirements is that you provide the finished grade elevation over whatever entity you are as-builting, and sometimes the construction is not done to the point that they actually have the final lift of asphalt. So we will take a note of that and get back to you guys. The question is, how, if it's in a common area, do we know where to set the meter? Jerry?
That's a good question. A lot of times, if you're setting a meter in a common area, we would advise you to put some contact info when you call in, because we're trying to track down those locations. It's not uncommon for us. There's some familiar faces in here. I know some of my technicians have been on the phone with you trying to find out, hey, where do you need this meter at and whatnot. So if there's contact info on that field activity, we expect the person out in the field to reach out and try to do what they need to do to determine where that meter needs to be located and get it in the ground.
We have also encouraged people to utilize a spray paint can and mark, here's where I want my water service, with your address right there. So whether it's a park without a normal address or an infill developer that doesn't have an address yet in the system, that would be a good way to ensure that that water or sewer service you are requesting us to install actually goes where you need it to. Any other questions? All right, well, at this time, we're going to go ahead and make our take our 10-minute break. If you'd like to go ahead and get some coffee, I saw George bring some more up. We've got plenty of snacks. It is 10:10 exactly, so please be back in your seats at 10:20 so we can continue and get you out of here on time. Thank you. All right, what's new? I know you're curious. All right, so let's get into it. Water, wastewater development website updates. I know that our website in the past has not been the most user-friendly. The development team has received numerous phone calls from you asking, where's this? Why isn't that here? Why isn't this available? So here you go. And if we have missed anything, please do let us know. We'll be happy to help get that on there. So our location is jea.com, engineering and construction, water, wastewater development. If you just get on jea.com, up at the top, there's a blue form that says engineering and construction, drops down to a gray bar, and then you can click on water and wastewater development. Some of the updates that we have provided, forms and procedures, this is huge. Real estate links. So I know a lot of you guys have need to do hold harmless agreements. In the past, that's been get back and forth with Brandon. There's a link on here now to Brandon's real estate page so that you can go get the forms. You can get information on real estate. Permit and COC applications for both JEA and FDEP, which I know in the past we had links to the FDEP ones that were not actually links to the permit applications. So these are here, they're in PDF. Go ahead, download them, use them. Pre-construction meeting request form. I know that is something that Josh went over in his presentation. It has a lot of the information that you are already providing to us. It's just on the form. And I know in the past that you've just called Chris Barrington to set up a pre-construction form or a pre-construction meeting. But if you please would include the form, copy Chris if you want, but include it that water, sewer, electric development website. Then that way, if Chris is not here, we can still start processing these. As you know, we do have a lot of pre-con meetings, so even though Chris is going to run it for you, if we can get you on the schedule, that's going to be that much faster for you. As-built submittal, transmittal, and checklist, I already went over this. There's a link on there. It's a PDF. It's an editable PDF, so you don't need to print and write on it. You can just type, do your check marks or your initials, and print it out. We've also included on there an FDOT special instructions. Again, that's an editable PDF. If any of the PDFs that are on there are not editable and you would like them to be, please do let me know. I think I got them all, but I'm not entirely certain. Just a couple of snips from our website. This is the main water, wastewater, reclaimed water development page. So I'm going to step away from the mic just for a second. On the left side of your screen, there's always that blue that has links. These are also links. So those are forms and procedures, reference materials, stages of a project, self-service calculations. That's where Gigi's applications for water services are, and how to connect to water and sewer services. If you click on stages of a project, you're going to get 4 different websites: initiation, design, construction, and acceptance. All of the acceptance documents that are part of Chris's package that he gets at the end of the project are on there. Our forms and procedures page has also been updated, so it's got headings, and they're all in order. So it's not, the last thing I need is the first thing on the page. We have put on here the typical review times, both for preliminary plan submittal, revision, and preliminary and the as-built submittal. I will reiterate, Josh had pointed out when you need a revision, if you need to change something, you need to submit that to us. Now, we're very aware that you're in construction, you don't have the time to go back and forth with the paper. So we have a process in place that when you are under construction, you can email it to us. Again, the Water Sewer Development website and your plan reviewer. Send us the PDF of your revision. We will review it electronically. If we need to provide you any comments, we will provide them to you electronically. Kick it back to us, we'll approve it electronically, and then at that point, your contractor continue to do work. You send us the hard copies so we can stamp them and everybody's good. This will help facilitate a faster review on your as-built approval because we're going off of our latest approved plan. So if you've made major changes that are not on the approved plans that we have, that's really going to delay that as-built approval. We've also on the reclaimed water irrigation spot down the bottom. I know a lot of times we get questions, what's the service territory for the reclaimed water? That map is there. So that blue highlighted area, if you just click on that, you're going to have a map that pops up that gives you our reclaimed service territory. Self-service center. Again, this is that location up at the top. You can see water or development project status. Click on track status of the project and you just put in your availability number, and it will give you a list of everything that has been recorded in terms of JEA process for that. Capacity calculators, this is the page that you can get to that. Gigi actually showed you the clips of them. And then also water sewer service applications. So we've put this stuff in multiple locations because I know you're on my page a lot, you're on her page a lot. We're trying to marry them back and forth so it's easier for you when you're not going. Alrighty, design guideline notable items. JEA.com, we've got all of our design guidelines on there. They're PDFs. It's an editable PDF. It's hyperlinked. So if you want to know, what is that email address I need to send to for pre-con, go to the pre-con section. The email address is hyperlinked. And just click on it. It already has the subject line in there. You just need to fill out your name and your project number. A lot of the links that we refer to, those are all hyperlinked. So we've done a lot of work on making the design guidelines very usable for you. So please go bookmark this page. Section 2.3 of the design review times, again, I've already laid those out on the web page, but that is where those are at. We get that question all the time. How long is this going to take? Now, when I say typical review times, that does not mean, that we take 15 days. We've actually got a pretty good turnaround on all of our review times, but you need to game plan on that time window. Do not expect us to be able to turn something around in one day. Even if we were able to do it for the last 4 projects you have, it just depends on the workload that we have and where you come in on that queue. Section 2.9, that's that pre-con meeting. You also have the link for the pre-con meeting form. Now, getting a little bit deeper into some of the other changes that we've had. Section 2.4.1 is the infill development section that we have added in. You must request an availability letter for infill development. And when I say infill development, it's old neighborhoods. I had 4 lots that I bought that were platted in 1950, and now I'm breaking it up into, 4 individual services as opposed to 1. That's how we refer to infill development. It's a lot of lot splits. There's multiple addresses on the same street. If you've got 3 or 4 addresses on the same block, you do not need 3 or 4 availability letters. Put in the request for 1, reference the addresses. If you've got different RE numbers, go ahead and put those in there. It makes no sense for you to have to keep track 4 of them, and we have to do all of those. So we certainly do not want more availability letters out there than need to be. This will help all of us. Infill layouts. So because this is in an area that, say I had a house and I had it on 4 lots, maybe Lot 1, I had my water service, and Lot 3, I had my sewer service. And now you're going to come in and you're going to want water and sewer on each one of those lots. I need a layout to show me where that water service is and where the sewer service is so that my team can say, Lot 1, you have water, you need sewer. Lot 3, you have sewer, you need water. Lots 2 and 4, you need both. We make those notes, and then you can go process it at the counter. It makes your time for dealing with this a whole lot faster than it was before, and it makes it a lot quicker for the metering teams to go in or the construction teams to go in if taps need to be made. They know what they need to do, they know where they need to do it. If you have got a situation where you are asking us to put in a sewer service, we are going to need a layout. Go take a look at this section for all of the requirements on that layout. It doesn't need to be an engineered plan. You've got a grading layout that you have to turn into the city anyway. That's what we're looking for. But really what we need the finished floor elevation for that house. We need to be able to tell you, yes, you can gravity from that home to the sewer service. You don't want to find out after you've paid for a sewer tap that now you've got to put a pump in to get to the sewer, or guess what? You can't even do that. So that's to help you. That's our planning process for it. So there are now 2 ways for you to be able to get any new installed services on infill development. One is JEA installed services. Those are typically installed within 10 business days. And the process is you give us the layout, we make the notes in the system, you go to Water Pre-Service, apply, pay your fees, the work is scheduled, generally within 10 business days, you have the services you need. There's another option now for builder installed services that will require a pre-con meeting and inspection, and that's 24/7 inspection. Anytime your contractor's out there, our inspector will be as well. It's also going to include as-built and acceptance. So go take a look at that section for the details on that. If you have any questions, you can email me. I will tell you it's a new process that we've just put in place. So there are bugs that we're working out, so work with us on that, please. Section 2.4.2, the development plan submittal. This is probably 2.5 pages of, you need to make sure that you have this, and you've got it broken into general requirements, and then if you've got water, here's what you need, sewer. So here's the highlights on some of the changes. As you guys know, you turn in plans maybe, we'll say October. You don't get your plans approved to say maybe May of the next year. You all know when you do this that your plans are based on the standards that are in place when you submit the plans to us. Now, if you have an approval stamp on your plans that say May 2019, but you designed your plans for 2018 standards, you've had a little bit of an issue in the past. So what we're doing now, we're asking all the engineers, when you submit plans to us, put a note on the cover sheet. Plans designed under years, 2018, 2017, 2019, those standards. Then that way, through the entire construction and acceptance, we will not have issues of, oh, we changed this on the lift station. Oh, but that was for 2017 and now we're in 2018. You guys all know what I'm talking about. It's been a big headache. So this is one of the things that we are doing to try and facilitate that being less of a hassle for you. Please put the availability number on the cover page of your plans. If you're really, really nice, please put it on every sheet of your plans. Pipe crossing information. You can either call this out at every pipe crossing or you can give us a table, but every pipe that crosses another pipe, that is JEA. So water reclaim, water sewer, water force main, water storm drain, or any of the other ones with the other ones. We need the bottom of the top pipe, the top of the bottom pipe, and the finished grade. We need to make sure that we've got the clearances, both between the pipes and that we'll have enough pipe cover. We're having too many instances where we are getting as-built and a pipe doesn't have enough coverage, or we get comments once we get it to permitting that the two pipes are way too close together, and that's a bit of a problem for you at that point. So we're going to try and knock that out during the design phase. Drawing scale, please keep it consistent from a page to a page. And then also, nothing bigger than 1 to 40. It's a little hard for us to read. Landscaping plans with proposed utilities shown. I know a lot of times you guys don't have, crazy landscaping plans. Other times people are putting trees on top of our water lines or sewer lines. We'd really like to know that. We'd like to help you not do that at the beginning because it's going to be a problem for you when you install it. Sample point locations. As Josh said in his presentation, the inspectors are no longer taking the sample points on your construction projects. That's going to the lab. The inspectors are giving the lab personnel the copies of the plans. They need to know where they need to go to pick up the samples. So engineers, please make sure you are putting your sample locations on your plans. Pipe profiles. Every pipe that you horizontally directional drill needs to have a profile. All force main pipe that you install, open cut, needs to have a profile. All water lines greater than 12 inches in diameter needs to have a profile. I know in the past we had something like, just put the finished grade and the elevation every 100 feet. That's no longer acceptable. We need to have that profile. So please do make a note on that. Section 3.1.5, flow comparison analysis. So we have at the beginning of a project, somebody will put in a request for an availability letter and they'll say my flow is this. They'll design their project. Here's my meter size. It'll get time to actually pay for the services fees on that meter, and it's, oh, this flow is not right, it needs to be less. Or, oh, this meter is not right, it needs to be less. And then you're kind of in a bind because you need your water, and we've got a whole review process that needs to go through on that. So to not put us in that position, all of us, you and us, we're asking that do that analysis during the plan review. So there is a section, Florida Administrative Code 64E-6008 1A. It's the table that tells you here's the flow if it's this, here's the flow if it's that. In 1A, it talks about comparisons and just high-level points on it. Latest 12 months of water use data, 6 similar establishments in the same general vicinity. We have had people send us stuff that it's like, okay, this one's Florida, and this one's Wisconsin, and this one's California, not the same general vicinity. So please, we will not approve that. That is not a valid comparison. So please take a look at this section and make sure that you are providing all of the correct data. We have no problem doing this, but we do want to make sure that you're giving us all the information that we need to have in order to review and approve your request. A couple of other points. The analysis summary and backup documentation needs to be included. If we accept, the system is sized based on the highest flow in any month for that establishment, not the average. That must be signed and sealed by a Florida PE, and it must be submitted no later than the final plans, please, because you're turning in your permit and your permitted flow is going through, we're keeping track of that. So if at the last second, way down here, you're going, well, I said 5,000, but I really meant 3,500, now we've got to change a bunch of stuff. So let's get it done at the beginning. You guys can know at that point, and I would also recommend, FYI, if you want to know what your costs are going to be, your capacity fees, your meter fees, whatever, you can go ask the water pre-service. You can use the calculators and verify with the water pre-service. So it's not sticker shock at the end. We don't want anybody to be in a situation of sticker shock, and we're all very willing to help you along the way to make sure that those numbers are very, very upfront and present for you. So please utilize us, because it's going to get into a time where you need your meter and we need to do these things, and it's not going to go fast enough for you. Alrighty, the big one. Emergency operations. So as most of you know, after the latest hurricane, we put in place all Class 1 pump stations that are dedicated to JEA need to have a generator. So we have backed off from that a little bit. So for Class 1 pump stations, we will allow what we're calling emergency storage. So how we are defining emergency storage, if you can have a minimum of 3-hour hold time based on the peak hourly flow for your development, whether it's commercial, residential, what have you, you can use the wet well, you can use the manholes, you can use the gravity system. You cannot use the ground. Thank you, right? You also cannot upsize your pipes or deepen your sewer system to get extra storage. So keep that in mind. But if you can meet that emergency storage, you do not need to have, generally speaking, backup power. Now, we still have the situations where if you're a repump lift station, if you've got a 12-inch or larger force main discharge, you need to have the generator. If you do not meet the emergency storage, you need to have the generator. And when I say generator or pony pump, it's one or the other, whichever it is that works best for your particular situation. If you have questions, let us know. Again, this is an analysis that needs to be done and submitted to us during the plan review. I would personally prefer it be done during the preliminary review, but just as long as it's done before the final acceptance, then we're good. And yes, your next question, or the question I'm sure we're going to get, we are accepting revisions on anything that has not been started that you had to have a generator. So if you meet those emergency requirements, yes, we will review your revision. Yes, we will allow you to have your emergency storage. Alrighty, Casey.
I'm going to talk to you this morning a little bit about some changes to our standards. Starting with our Class 1 pump stations, the emergency storage has already been addressed. The next kind of important change is we're no longer requiring flow meters, which I think will be a sizable savings as well. High RPM submersible pumps are approved. Right now, I believe there's only one approved manufacturer, and I'm pretty sure we're vetting another as we speak. Polyconcrete manholes and wet wells are approved and required in certain high corrosive applications. Traditional concrete manholes and wet wells are still approved for certain applications, and starting in 2020 will require a 50-year warranty in order to maintain approval. CCTV on new laterals is required. This is to protect the customer as well as the contractor, and also reduce JEA's future O&M. As-built drawings. Boundary survey is required on all pump stations. This includes the equipment within as well. You must provide the finished grade and top of pipe elevations for the suitable lateral stub outs. This is important. Asset data tables in Excel is required. and in JEA format. Be sure to check the as-built checklist. It has changed, so you're not surprised by anything that you may have missed. Okay. Kyle?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kyle Schottler, and I am with the Water Wastewater Customer Response Team. I'm going to dive off into the special estimates. Starting off on a commercial project, you're going to be required to have approved plans before requesting the estimate. The estimate you should get back within 10 days, and it is good for 30 days. Do keep in mind that this estimate is in lieu of all water and wastewater taps, standard taps. The application needs to have the availability number, and along with the payment, it needs to be submitted to the water pre-service counter. Typical installation time is 10 business days, but that's going to vary depending on the complexity and scheduling. Also, we have to do, like Gigi said, 811 locates. When is a special estimate needed? Specifically, when a main line is 8 foot or deeper. That's obviously because of dewatering. Within DOT, St. Johns County, Nassau County right-of-ways, if it's on a City of Jacksonville pavement that has been paved within the last 5 years, or alongside sewer service, and or multiple taps. If you're requesting multiple taps within a block, all these are going to require a special estimate specifically because of asphalt overlay. We all know how expensive that is. Low pressure step systems, any new low pressure step systems that you're requesting, or sewer vacuum systems as well. Another conflict with utilities, cable, gas, electric, stormwater infrastructure. You got to think, if that's going to be in the way of the service tap location, then we're going to have to do and take extra measures to prevent it and to get you the service. We're going to move on to the residential flow meter tests. These tests can be requested when the project that you're working on has a 2-inch main line abutting the property and it's close but over the JEA limit of service connections, which is 5 connections on a 2-inch main line, a dead-end 2-inch main line, or 10 connections on a looped 2-inch main line. This application must be submitted to the JEA development team for review. Once they have reviewed it, they will, if it's approved, they will let you know, and you must take the application and the $82 fee, which is located on JEA.com, the application is, and you must take it to the JEA Water Pre-Service Center. They will then create a work order for our field technicians to go out and perform the test, which is typically done between Thursdays and Tuesdays, because that allows us to see variations in flows and pressures on the existing main line. These results are then given to the JEA development team for review, and they will determine whether or not you will be allowed to tie into that 2-inch main line. If there's any other questions regarding these, the flow test or the special estimates, I'd be glad to answer after the presentation. Thank you.
All right. How many people build in St. Johns County and have dealt with Trish Carroll at the building department trying to get your building permit before your construction has been accepted? Should be, oh, that's it? Wow. I thought it would be like everybody. Okay, so just to give you guys an FYI on this, the St. Johns County is no longer accepting the JEA availability letters for showing proof of JEA going to provide you service. So we have met with Trish Carroll and come up with sort of a Band-Aid solution so that you can continue to get your building permits and build before you're done with your infrastructure, and we have accepted it. So just to give you a little bit of a background on that process, there are 3 ways that you can go about getting your building permit. You can either provide a copy of your overall project acceptance letter, which Chris Barrington or somebody from the development team will provide to you when we accept your project. Provide a copy of the new services receipt that you get from the water pre-service counter, or a pre-acceptance letter from JEA. You email us for that, and I'll get more into that later. Now, the thing is the project acceptance letter and the receipt will get you both your building permit and your building CO. The pre-acceptance letter will only get you your building permit, so keep in mind. So in order for you to get a pre-acceptance letter from us, your project needs to be under construction but not yet accepted. And when I say under construction, I don't mean email me today. I had a meeting with Chris this morning check mark on the pre-acceptance. Infrastructure's in the ground. We're testing it. We're close. That is what I mean by you're under construction. The request letter, again, that water sewer development project request email. Attention, St. Johns County pre-acceptance letter. Please include your project name, your availability number, and a single-page master layout showing all lot numbers for your development phase, buildings for commercial properties. Once we get that, we'll put together the letter. The letter will be emailed to you. So just as an RFI or a FYI note on this, if you get a pre-acceptance letter from me, I'm going to reference all of the lots that you asked me to if they're under construction. So your phase 1 is lots 1 through 50. Your layouts are going to show lots 1 through 50 because when you go to apply for your building permit, you're doing it with an address, probably not a lot number. So that's Trish's way to be able to go, okay, Deanna said this is the same area, I'm good. So I need legible street names and I need legible lot numbers. I would like them all on one page so you don't lose it. The letter is good for all applicable lots. So you don't need to come to me for lot 1, lot 5, lot 7. I'm giving you 1 through 50, reproduce it. And Trish is fine with it being reproduced, FYI, so that's not been an issue. When it comes to the pre-acceptance letters, if I've already issued a pre-acceptance letter, if we have issued you a pre-acceptance letter, then you're good. You don't need, or I'm sorry, not pre-acceptance, acceptance, then you're good. You don't need anything else. You don't need your receipts. You don't need any of that. So that is like your golden ticket. If you are developers, please share it with whomever it is that is running your real estate. I know a lot of times there's various groups that are building in these areas. Please don't inundate us with requests for multiple copies of these. Share them amongst yourselves because you're going to be able to get your stuff a lot faster. Make sure these guys know, keep copies of these because they can all be reused for the next lot and the next lot. But that is the process with Trish that's been in place for probably almost a year at this point. But I know I just had an issue in the last week. Somebody had no idea what that process is. So if you know it and you've done it, if you don't know it, now you do. And our last item is electronic plan submittal. So we've talked a lot about for water, wastewater, you need to submit to us hard copies and PDFs. Over the last year and a half, we've been trying to mostly do electronic plan review with the PDFs because it gets you your responses faster and it's easier for us to share it with other JEA personnel that have to review it. We currently have an RFI out on the street. It's actually due next Friday. We're trying to get an electronic plan review program. So our goal is hopefully by the end of at least this fiscal year, we'll have at least identified the company or the program that we're going to use for that. But just to give you guys an FYI on that, our goal is to get it to where you don't need to be running down here with multiple plan sets. You don't need to get the couriers. You don't need to wonder if somebody else picked up your plans in the mailroom. So we are working on that. Unfortunately, the electric group's a little bit further ahead than we are, but we're trying to catch up. So that is the end of our section 3 and the end of our presentation.